Hello, and welcome back to yet another video. This is the 23rd episode in a Naruto Uzumaki story in which a few little changes might have a significant impact. Knowledge provided early in Naruto's career converted him from a hopeless loser to a powerful and skilled shinobi. Historical differences that have long ago passed have resulted in a totally different consequence than we imagined. After you've finished watching, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. To begin, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Let's get the party started. When Naruto regained consciousness, it was to discover that he was lying on his back, with something soft underneath him. There was no pain, no tiredness from combat, no aching muscles. Nothing. Just the soft feel of whatever he was lying on. His face scrunched up. The last thing he remembered was fighting those three enemy shinobi, using Kyuubi's chakra, then nothing. Where was he? Are you finally awake? That voice, now he understood. He was within the seal. Pain and other physical ailments from the outside world couldn't reach him. Opening his eyes, Naruto was greeted by another pair of eyes. Holy shit! He screamed in surprise, even as his body instinctively made to scramble backwards, if only so those eyes would not be so close. Well, that was rude, Kyuubi huffed as she watched Naruto press his back against the head of the bed. She was sitting in a position that was almost Caesar, except her legs were spread further apart, which was due to the fact that she had been straddling him before he'd freaked out on her. Kyuubi? Naruto clutched a hand to his shirt, feeling his heart rate settle down. He was still breathing pretty heavily from the surprise of having the red-haired woman practically touching noses with him. What the heck were you doing so close to me? I wanted to see how you'd react. Naruto's right eye twitched. So you were screwing with me? Pretty much. Lifting a hand, Naruto used said appendage to tired rub his face. Whatever, he sighed, running the hand all the way down the length of his face. He then looked at Kyuubi with a frown. I think we need to talk. What happened back there? How come I couldn't use your Yuki? That, Kyuubi coughed into her hand a couple of times. Yes, well, it seems your body is no longer capable of using my Yuki. No longer capable of using your Yuki? Naruto parroted. Why? How come? Because your own Yuki has now fully integrated with your body, Kyuubi answered. Knowing Naruto would not understand what she meant, the red-haired female continued. When your body first took half of my Yuki, it began an integration process, turning my potent energy into something a little more malleable and usable for a human. Except for the instances in which you did that strange transformation when you were fighting the Snake Man, the Yuki in your body remained mostly unused. It was a separate power from your chakra. Kyuubi paused and looked at Naruto to make sure he was following along. When she saw him sitting there, staring at her intently, she continued, however, now that power, your chakra and your Yuki have fully combined to form a single power composed of about 1/4 chakra and 3/4 Yuki. And because your power is composed of 1/4 of Yuki, my own Yuki is no longer compatible. I'm not sure I understand. Naruto scratched the back of his head. His confusion was rather evident to Kyuubi. Wasn't that Yuki originally yours? How can it not be compatible with your power? Because it no longer is my power, Kyuubi explained, it's yours. The thing you have to understand is that two such potent powers cannot be used at the same time. She paused, her head tilting. Think of our powers as magnets. Back when your chakra was entirely human, your polarity was negative while mine was positive. However, now that your chakra has fully integrated the Yuki the seal took from me, the polarity of your energy is now also positive. Two powers that equal positive cannot combine. They reject each other, pushing each other away. In your case, that rejection was violent and painful because the two separate energies inside your body were pushing against each other, causing the two powers to run rampant through your body. After taking in everything Kyuubi was telling him, Naruto only had one question. So what are you saying? I'm saying that you can no longer rely on my Yuki to get you out of tough situations. Even using it passively to heal your wounds out of the question, as it could very easily lead to your body being torn apart. I see, Naruto sighed as he leaned his head back to stare at the ceiling. Well, that sucks. Kyuubi's Yuki had been one of his aces for when he found himself running out of options. It had also been instrumental in keeping his body in top shape whenever it had been injured. The healing factor her Yuki provided was invaluable. He would never have been able to beat the likes of Gaara during the prelims had it not been for her Yuki. It's not all bad, Kyuubi informed him. Naruto perked up. Now that your Yuki has become fully integrated with your chakra, you should have increased control over it. Your Yuki should also provide you with a healing factor similar to what you had when you used my Yuki. She shrugged. I doubt you'll be growing arms back anytime soon, but things like poison and minor wounds will heal quickly. You can probably even regenerate from losing fingers and toes, maybe even a hand or a foot. But not an arm or a leg? Not until you learn to master your Yuki, Kyubi said. Your control over it might improve, but Yuki is very different from chakra. It's much more potent, as you well know. Naruto blew out a long, slow breath and closed his eyes. It seemed the problems were just adding up today. So how would I go about learning to control my Yuki? I imagine you would do so by entering that transformed state of yours, but I can't say for sure. When Naruto opened his eyes to stare at her, Kyubi frowned. What? It's not like this has ever happened before. We're in completely new territory. I'm just as much in the dark about all this as you are. So I guess I'll be figuring out how to control my Yuki on my own. Naruto had never been one to turn away from hard work, but he really wasn't looking forward to the prospect of trying to do something as dangerous as learning to control a power no other human had before now. I'll help where I can, Kyubi informed him. I'm just not sure how much help I can be. What? What are you staring at me like that for? Sorry, it's just, Naruto chuckled a bit. I guess I never thought I'd see the day where you would offer your help so readily. Even when you helped train me during the Chunin exams, you did so begrudgingly. Whatever, Kyubi turned her head away from Naruto. Don't look too much into it. I just don't want a weak vessel. That's all. Hi. And don't act so patronizing either. Zox, you let them get away. Shabetaba screeched at the top of his lungs as he glared daggers at the group of ninja under his employ. He couldn't believe it. These three ninja he had paid for with his own money, had let not only Princes Michiru and Hikaru escape, but hadn't been able to kill either one of those two ninja that had come with them. If you can't even kill a single one of my enemies, then what the hell am I paying you for? If they were going to be this incompetent, he might as well not pay them at all. Failures like this didn't deserve even a cent of his hard-earned coin. The brat was more competent than we thought, Ishidate said through slightly clenched teeth. He was doing his best to keep his composure, but it was difficult when his employer was acting like an ignorant and spoiled prick. Not only was he immune to our poison, he was easily at the same level I am. He also has a strange power that I've never seen before. I don't want to hear any of your excuses, Shabetaba shouted, pointing a quivering, fat finger at Ishidate. It took everything the villageless ninja had not to cave the man's face in. Standing on either side of him, Karenbana and Congo looked like they were also having trouble trying to keep themselves restrained. Congo was visibly shaking and Karenbana had clenched her fists so tightly her already white knuckles looked like they might start turning translucent. Shabetaba turned away from the trio of ninja and walked towards the window that showed a splendid view of Tsuki no Kuni, his kingdom. He clasped his hands behind his back as he surveyed his domain. Ah, his domain. He really did like the sound of that. Seeing his land before him helped calm Shabetaba down, at least enough to think rationally. Because I am so magnanimous, I'm going to give you three another chance, he told them, never taking his eyes off his kingdom. You are going to kill those two shinobi who are guarding the prince and bring both Michiru and Hikaru to me. Do this and I shall forget all about your failure. Ishidate glared at his employer's back. His left hand was clenched into a fist so tight his knuckles were turning white and several pops could be heard from the joints in his fingers cracking. After a moment, he allowed his hand to relax. Very well, Ishidate said, shocking his two companions. We shall exterminate those two ninja and bring both Prince Michiru and Hikaru to you. Karenbana started, only to be silenced by her leader raising a single hand. Good, Shabetaba nodded, seemingly pleased. I'm glad to hear that. However, the portly man turned to give Ishidate and the other two a look that would have been fierce on anybody who wasn't shorter than 5 feet and wider than 2. Know that I will not tolerate any more failures on your part. If you fail to accomplish this task, you'll not receive a single cent from me. Understood? Ishidate placed an arm in front of his stomach and bowed slightly at the waist, just enough to be respectful, though the fact that he was doing so in such a condescending manner took any respect the gesture may have had away. We shall take our leave now. Come on Karenbana, Congo. Their leader turned around and swept past them, his long cloak billowing out behind him. After several seconds of staring, they also rushed out of the room, leaving Shabetaba alone. The group walked down the hall in silence. Candles were spaced every meter, lining the walls and casting a pale orange on the ground, floor and ceiling. Their forms cast eerie shadows that flickered as if alive every time they moved past a candle, and their footfalls gave dull thuds as they hit the crimson rug that lined the center of the hall. Ishidate, do you really think it's a good idea to continue supporting Shabetaba after what happened? Karenbana asked. She did not like the idea of facing that blonde-haired brat again. Just remembering how those crimson irises had looked at her while radiating enough bloodlust and killing intent to fill a lake made her shudder. "Don't be ridiculous, Karenbana," Ishidate almost snorted. "Our only shot at getting rid of those two was when we had the element of surprise." They had been counting on Jiraiya's guard being down and the poison hampering the Senin's ability to fight. The moment where they might have been able to win had long since passed. Now that Jiraiya is aware of us and knows that we have an odorless, tasteless poison, he'll be on guard. Our moment of surprise is gone, and with it any advantage we may have once possessed is gone as well. What's more, I doubt it'll be just Jiraiya we'll have to deal with. We'll also have to take care of that blonde brat too, and he has proven to be every bit as difficult to take out as Jiraiya. Then there was that strange power. Karenbana shuddered. "So what do we do, then?" asked Kongo. "We'll stick around for a while longer," Ishidate said after a moment's thought. "Jiraiya and that Naruto brat will no doubt come here with that army of theirs to retake the palace. We'll use the chaos caused by those two to make our escape, but not before helping ourselves to some of Shah Betaba's riches. After the way they had stuck their necks out and nearly been killed for it, it was only fair." Zox Jiraiya sighed as he sat in Caesar beside the futon he had placed Naruto in. The cave the two of them were currently located in was dank and dark, moisture coalesced on stalactites lowering from the ceiling. The drip, 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 drip of water hitting the ground sounded several decibels louder than it should and was working on Jiraiya's already frayed nerves and patience. As the Senin looked at his apprentice, a growl tore itself from his lips. He smashed a fist onto his knee, cursing himself for his stupidity. To think someone of his caliber would be so off guard that he allowed himself to be poisoned. It was disgraceful. He was one of the Densetsu no Sannin and spy master to boot. This type of thing shouldn't happen to him. A grimace crossed his face. He only had himself to blame for getting poisoned. He had been so preoccupied by the current estrangement with his apprentice that he'd been caught completely off guard and allowed himself one of those girls he had no clue which to slip him a Mickey. It just went to show even the most experienced of ninja could still be taken by surprise. "This is all my fault," Jiraiya muttered to himself as he closed his eyes and clenched his fists. His apprentice was lying there, dead to the world, completely comatose. "If I hadn't been so stupid." A groan made Jiraiya halt mid-sentence. He opened his eyes and looked at Naruto. The blonde teen was finally beginning to stir. His eyes fluttered open. He blinked a few times, then tilted his head until his eyes landed on Jiraiya. "Uro-Senin," he muttered lowly. Jiraiya's sweat dropped. He wasn't sure if he was pleased his apprentice was calling him Uro-Senin again, but figured it could only be a good thing. "Where am I? You're in a hideout that the rebels?" Jiraiya paused in thought before nodding slowly. "Yeah, I guess that'll work. We're in the hideout the rebels are using to hide Michirudono and Hikaru." "I see. Listen, Naruto Uro-Senin." Jiraiya furrowed his brows. There was something strange about the way Naruto said that. An unusual inflection in his voice the Senin had never heard from the young man before. "I'm sorry." "Sorry?" Jiraiya blinked. "Sorry for what?" "For the way I've been treating you," Naruto sighed. Jiraiya stared at the boy in surprise. "I've been thinking about it a lot. I know how much my old man meant to you. You always talked about how he was like the son you never had, and I imagine it must have really hurt when he died. It probably hurt so much that you had to get away from Konoha because it reminded you of him. Sort of like how Bachan left because the village reminded her of her lost lover and little brother." "Naruto. Look, I guess what I'm trying to say is that I understand why you never came to see me, and I can accept that. So," Naruto turned his head away from the Gamma Senin, "I'm sorry for being a jerk to you." Throughout Naruto's little speech, Jiraiya could only stare at the young man in shock. Naruto was apologizing. Naruto, the loudest, most obnoxious person he had ever known, someone who was more stubborn than anyone he'd met in his entire life, was apologizing. Jiraiya wasn't sure what he should do. This must be a dream. He pinched himself. "Nope, not a dream. It's okay." Jiraiya rubbed the back of his head, an uncomfortable expression on his face. He had never been good with this kind of stuff. "I should have come to visit you, at least once in a while. I knew life in Konoha wasn't easy for you. I got the occasional report from Sarutobi telling me as much, but I was so consumed by my own sorrow that I never thought about coming back." I guess we're both sorry then," Naruto said. "Yeah, I guess so. So what now?" "Now?" Jiraiya's expression hardened. "Now there are a few things I need to tell you." Zox, it took a bit of searching. The person he was looking for had not been in the cave the rebel faction still loyal to the king was hiding out in, but Naruto eventually found Hikaru. The young prince had climbed on top of the small cliff that was situated by the cave. He was sitting with his back against the cliff face, his legs curled into his chest and his arms wrapped around his legs. There was a despondent expression on his face and still wet tear tracks on his cheeks. Naruto sighed as he walked up to the young boy, who had not even acknowledged his presence despite not making an effort to mask his approach. He sat down next to Hikaru and looked out at the view. It was very beautiful. The sun was setting, casting a brilliant, multicolored glow on the earth. The trees were a mix of reds, yellows, blues and purples. He could see the sea in the distance. The sun coruscated off its surface and the rippling waves made it look almost alive. "I heard about what happened to your grandfather, Naruto said softly. Hikaru stiffened. "I was told that your grandfather was the one who sent you and your dad on that tour, that he did it to protect you when he went to confront the ministers he'd been disagreeing with on the path your kingdom should take." When the boy didn't respond, he sighed. "Want to talk about it? It's not good to leave this kind of stuff bottled up." A sniffle. He said that happiness and wealth weren't the same thing. Another sniffle. "He told us that he wanted a place of peace and harmony. And he kept talking about what really matters." More sniffling. "My grandfather was always very kind to me. He made that boat for me, and he always used to watch me practice." Tears began flowing down Hikaru's eyes as he sniffled some more. He tried to wipe the tears away, but it was futile gesture. "And whenever I made a bullseye, he was even happier than I was. I loved him so much." Naruto sat there silently for several minutes, listening to the young boy pour his emotions out. Night had fallen now, the sky was growing dark and the moon and stars were out. It wouldn't be long before the last vestiges of light left this world. "Do you think you understand what your grandfather was trying to say?" The sniffling stopped. Hikaru looked over at Naruto, who was staring back at him. The young boy shook his head. "I think I've got a pretty good idea of what he was talking about. He was talking about what happens here." Naruto thumped his chest, "Right here in your heart." As Hikaru touched a hand to his chest, Naruto stood up. He placed his hands on his hip and stared at the darkening sky. "Back in Konoha, Son Daime-jin was a lot like my grandfather. Back when he was alive he would look after me, and when he died, it was like he left everything for me to look after. That's one of the reasons I promised to become Hokage and protect the village in his stead." Turning his head, Naruto looked down at the young boy, who was staring at him, listening to every word he spoke. "What your grandpa left is something very precious, and it's up to you and your father to keep it safe. If it's really that precious, if it meant that much to my grandfather, I'm not sure I could protect it." Hikaru looked back down at the forest below. All he could see were silhouettes now. "I'm not sure I'm ready for that." "You may be right." Hikaru looked back at him and Naruto grinned. "You're a little young. Maybe you're not ready to handle that kind of responsibility, but you will be when you grow up, and hey, if you don't even try how can you be sure? Maybe you are ready right now and just don't know it. The only way to know for sure is to get up and go for it." "But we're friends, right, Hikaru?" Naruto knelt down until he was eye level with the younger boy. "That means if you become the daimyo of Tsuki no Kuni and I become Hokage, Konoha and this land will become friends just like us." "Really?" "Yep, and that means that whenever you or your country is in trouble, Konoha will be there to help you." Naruto grinned widely at the young boy, who stared at him in confusion. "Of course, if Konoha was ever in trouble, I'd like to be able to count on you. So how about it?" He held out a hand, his pinky extended. "Friends for life?" Hikaru stared at the pinky finger in front of him for several long seconds, after which, a smile appeared on his. "Yeah." He extended his own hand and grabbed Naruto's pinky with his own. "Friends forever." Zox, Naruto and Jiraiya stood around a very small table with a map on top of it. Kurega and several other men were also standing around the table. Now that Naruto had woken up and Jiraiya had updated him on their situation, the group of soldiers loyal to the true daimyo decided it was time for them to reclaim their home from Shinobi. A number of plans had already been thrown around, ideas had been bounced between all those presents. But so far none of those plans had been accepted as feasible, even though Naruto was sure they could get it done. Hell, he was sure that just he and Jiraiya would be enough to defeat Shinobi and all his forces, including those three ninja. A frontal assault is impossible. There are simply too many soldiers loyal to Shinobi. Even if we were capable of mounting a full-scale attack, we'd be overwhelmed. While the adults spoke and tried to plan out their attack on Shinobi's palace, Naruto studied the map in front of him. It was an intricately detailed map of the palace. Looking it over he could see the map included even hidden passages. There were at least 16. Does Shinobi know about the hidden passages? Asked Naruto. The adults all paused and looked at the youngest of them all. Jiraiya glanced at Kurega with a raised eyebrow. He may know about some, but I doubt he'll know all of them, answered Kurega. There are many hidden passages located in the palace that are only known to the daimyos and their royal guard. All the royal guards are here, he finished by gesturing towards his men. Good, Jiraiya smiled grimly, that means we'll be able to use one or more of these hidden passages to sneak some soldiers in. With some luck they should be able to make it to Shinobi undetected while we launch some kind of distraction from the front to keep the main force's attention occupied. The man with the spiky white mane of hair cupped his chin and thought. The question, though, is what kind of distraction should we use? Why don't we use the circus Michiru brought? Asked Naruto, finally looking up from his studying of the map to stare at the other people there. They were all looking at him in surprise. We could join their troupe and have them perform at the palace. When everyone is busy watching the show, we have several people sneak in from one of these secret passages. That could work, Jiraiya murmured. He looked down to study the map intently. His finger traced across the surface before stopping on top of one of the hidden passages. We can use this one in the south wing to enter. It's the farthest from the palace entrance, which means it'll be the least guarded when we launch our distraction. Now the only question is how are we going to convince the carnies to go along with our plan? Naruto gave Jiraiya a large grin that spoke of mischief and mystery. You leave that to me. Zox, to the average observer, it would look like an ordinary day. The citizens were going about their business, shops were open and selling their wares and products, and children were running through the street. It looked like a peaceful day. Too bad it was all an illusion. The citizens' attempt at getting on with their daily lives was merely their effort to hide their unease at the recent string of events that had taken place in the last few weeks. First there was that strange commotion at the palace where a rebel faction had attempted to kill their daimyo, and now they had learned that Princes Michiru and Hikaru were traitors to the crown. It was early that morning when the announcement had been made, stating that Prince Michiru had been the one responsible for the attack on his own father. The citizens were understandably shocked. Prince Michiru had been responsible for the attack on his father? How could this be? There had been no indication that the prince was dissatisfied with his father's rule or that he wanted to usurp his father's throne. And hadn't he been out of the country until just recently? According to the new ruler, the attack had been planned that way to cast suspicion of Prince Michiru. To make matters worse, they had learned that the attack actually succeeded and the daimyo had died from poison just last night. Amongst those who had been shocked by the announcement, none were more shocked than the circus troupe Michiru had brought from the mainland. Their reasons for being surprised were far different from the normal citizens though. They did not believe for one second that the prince was the one responsible for killing his father. There was no way someone who acted so goofy and joyful would kill their own father. This entire situation smelled fishy to them. Despite learning of this, the troupe tried not to let their suspicions get to them. Maybe Michiru really had attacked his father. What did they know of royalty? Nothing. And so they tried to put it out of their minds and focus on their next big gig. They had been contacted by the palace, who wanted to bring them in for entertainment in order to celebrate the rise of their new daimyo, Shinobi. The troupe had just finished practicing. They wanted to pull out all the stops to make this gig the biggest success they'd ever had. If it was successful and the new daimyo enjoyed their routine, it could really put them on the map. All of the animals were currently being put back in their cages. The gig wasn't until later tonight, so there was no need for them to be outside when they weren't practicing. The only animal not in his cage was Chamu, and that was simply because the big saber-tooth had taken to lounging on top of the cage. Even now, the taskmaster could see his most popular attraction soaking up the sun like some kind of big, lazy house cat. Let's move it, people. The taskmaster said as his troop swiftly and efficiently moved around the small space allotted to them. It was outside of the city grounds, there simply wasn't enough space for them in the city. That was okay though, they were at least located next to the gates. I want us to be rested and ready to move at a moment's notice. It was while the taskmaster was directing his troop that Chamu raised his head and began sniffing the air. Without warning, the saber-tooth leapt from his perch and began running off. See, Chamu? The taskmaster shouted in surprise. Where are you going? Come back. Grumbling in complaint, the taskmaster followed Chamu as best he could. Several others had also seen Chamu run off and followed after him. The troop chased after the giant tiger as he dove into the copse of trees, doing their best not to stumble over roots as they moved as fast as they could. Eventually, the group managed to catch up with the star of their show, but that was only because Chamu had stopped running. See, Chamu, that tickles. As one, the troop dropped their jaws as Chamu smothered Naruto in affection, licking the blonde teen's face and leaving a wet, slobbering trail. Alright, you big lug. Naruto pushed the tiger off him, grinning as he scratched behind the saber-tooth's left ear. I think that's quite enough. And Naruto? The taskmaster shouted in surprise. What are you doing here? Petting Chamu one last time, Naruto stood up and addressed the taskmaster, his expression more serious than any of them had ever seen it. Considering he had been brooding almost the entire time they met, that was saying something. We need your help. Zox Shabadaba was sitting on his throne, enjoying the day, or at least trying to. While he loved his new throne, it was a very comfy throne with a lot of amenities and a really soft cushion. It was indisputably difficult to enjoy when there were so many loose ends that needed to be tied up. Despite making the announcement about Prince Michiru being a traitor who had killed his own father when the man refused to hand over control of the kingdom, there were many people who were still skeptical. He had done what he could to silence dissenters, but this was a precarious time for him right now, and he couldn't just silently deal with the people who did not believe him. Even worse was that Michiru and his brat were still out there somewhere, being guarded by samurai forces loyal to the king and those Konoha shinobi. They were not going to stay quiet for very long. No doubt they would try something, which could disrupt all of his planning and plotting. Shabadaba slammed his left fist against the armrest. Damn those Konoha ninja. They were always sticking their noses in where it didn't belong. First they had killed Gato, thereby ending several lucrative business deals he had with the man. Now they were protecting that fat, useless fool of a prince and his spawn. Those three had better hurry up and dispose of Michiru and his spoiled son, he muttered to himself. He had paid damn good money for those three to do his dirty work. Shabadaba did not like giving away money to begin with. He hated it even more when he gave away money with the expectation of the people he was paying getting the job done and not having those expectations met. If something didn't change soon, those three were going to find themselves out on the street with not even a Ryu to their name. The loud clanging of the door opening brought an abrupt end to Shabadaba's thoughts. The portly politician turned daimyo looked up to see several of his guards entering the throne room. While most of them stopped a meter or so away, one of them, dressed in the uniform of a guard captain, continued walking up to the throne. A second later he was kneeling in front of the daimyo, one knee on the floor, the other thrust into the air and being used to support his right arm that lay across it. His head was bowed in deference. My lord, the circus troupe you requested for entertainment has arrived. Ah, good, good. Shabadaba sat up a little straighter, excitement coursing through him. With all the planning and backstabbing he had been doing, he'd not had much time to relax. With luck, tonight's entertainment would serve to temporarily relieve him of the stress he was feeling. Let them in. Standing up, Shabadaba made his way to the veranda. The throne room had its own balcony which allowed him to look over his kingdom. It would serve as a good place to watch the coming festivities. Zox Jiraiya grinned underneath his disguise. Everything was going well. The guards had let them in through the front gate and none of them suspected a thing. Not that he could blame them. As a spy master he was well versed in the art of disguise, though even Jiraiya had to admit this particular disguise was incredibly well done, probably even his best one yet. Not that he expected any less. His disguises were just plain awesome. His outfit consisted of a large pair of bright red pants and a green vest. He wasn't wearing a shirt, allowing his awesome pecs and abs to be seen by all. The only thing he disliked about his disguise was that no one could see his awesome lion's mane of hair. Instead there was a large red and green striped hat on top of his head. Still, stupidly large hat aside, Jiraiya had to admit his costume was pretty awesome and allowed him to showcase his awesomeness to the world. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce you to the greatest show in the entire elemental nations. As the taskmaster did his introduction, Jiraiya glanced around at all those who had come to see the palace's entertainment. He spotted Shabadaba sitting up on the large balcony, looking every bit the spoiled, disgusting politician he was. Surrounding him were several other politicians, advisors most likely, and located around the palace grounds were the many soldiers charged with protecting the palace. He counted at least 5 dozen. According to Kurega there were exactly 6 dozen squads worth of samurai guarding the palace. That meant 12 samurai were not present. That was okay. Naruto, Kurega and the other samurai going with them could handle a dozen samurai. Of more immediate concern were those 3 shinobi. 1-on-1, even 2-on-1, Jiraiya was confident Naruto could win, but according to his apprentice they always worked together, and that was a problem. An even bigger problem was that he could not see them amongst the crowd. Stay safe, Naruto. Zox darkness. Naruto was surrounded by darkness as he, Kurega, several samurai, along with Hikaru and Michiru traveled through the small passageway leading into the palace. It was a very tight space, very cramped. The group had been forced to walk single file because of this, and it had caused a good deal of problems when deciding who would go first. Naruto won by stint of being able to see in the dark. Kurega had not been very happy, but then, he'd been angry since Michiru and Hikaru told them they were going with them. The addition of the two princes to their company had been a big surprise to all of them. No one had any idea why the two had decided to accompany them, and neither one would say. Prince Michiru's only response was he needed to confront Shinobi about his actions. A large-scale argument had broken out between Kurega and Michiru about whether or not they should be allowed to go. Kurega had argued that it was too dangerous, and he had a point. There was no telling what kind of dangers they would face once inside the palace. Those three ninja Naruto fought came to mind, and there was a good chance of them getting injured or even killed. Despite this, neither Michiru nor Hikaru were deterred. In the end, Kurega had been forced to accede to their demands. It probably didn't help that Naruto had vouched for them and all but said he would protect them from every danger they faced. That really hadn't been one of his smartest moments. But then, despite his increase in intellect since becoming a Genin, Naruto still didn't have that much common sense. Go figure. With his now fully developed yokai being channeled to his eyes, Naruto surveyed the area around them. His purple irises flickered about, looking at the walls that almost felt like they were closing in on him, the dank and wet floor, and the low-hanging ceiling that was just a few feet above their heads. This definitely wasn't the type of place someone who was claustrophobic would want to walk through. "Keep a tight grip on me, Hikaru," Naruto said softly as he felt the boy's grip on the fabric of his shirt slacken. Right, the grip instantly tightened again. "Hey, Tana-san, how much farther until we get out of here?" "It's Kurega," Kurega's annoyed voice snapped at him, "and it shouldn't be much farther. Maybe another minute at most." "Good, I was getting tired of walking through such a dark place, and my eyes are getting sore." "That's because your body is not used to your yokai yet," Kyuubi told him. "Even though your chakra and yokai have fully mixed, your body does not recognize it as yours. Thus, it's rejecting your own energy." "Is that bad?" "I doubt it. Your body should adjust eventually. Just give it time. Until then, you'll have to deal with some mild discomfort." "Good to know. How can you even see in this place, Naruto?" asked Hikaru. "I can't see a thing." The only reason he hadn't smacked into a wall or tripped on something was because of Naruto. In fact, Naruto was the one leading the entire group, because he could somehow see in the dark while they could not. "It's my eyes," Naruto told him. "I'm channeling Yo chakra to my eyes in order to enhance my vision." He turned his head to look back at the young prince and the rest of the group following behind them. His irises were no longer blue, but a purple that glowed brighter than most oil lamps. "Whoa." Naruto grinned at Hikaru's awestruck expression. "Awesome, right?" "Yeah. Quit talking, you two." Kurega once again spoke out of annoyance. "We're almost there." Indeed they were. Just a few seconds after Kurega finished speaking, they reached a black space of wall with no discernible opening. It was a dead end. Well, it looked like a dead end, but it was actually the entrance/exit that allowed people to move in and out of the palace without being seen. "Move it," Kurega grunted as he pushed Naruto out of the way. The younger of the two stumbled a bit. Straightening, the spiky-haired blonde glared at the older man, who was even now holding a torch up to the wall, searching for something. "The hell was that for?" asked Naruto. "Don't tell me you're still angry at not getting to lead. Your shitty torch can't beat the awesomeness that are my eyes. And wait, is it just me or did I sound like an Uchiha just then?" "You did. Please don't do that again." "Damn," Naruto shuddered. "I don't even have monkey eyes and I sounded like an arrogant sob. Better be a bit more careful." He shook his head and focused on his newest target, someone who never failed to amuse him. "So, Tana-san, why are you upset at me again?" He was ignored. "You're not still upset over the nickname, are you?" Kurega continued ignoring him. "Oh, come on. Tana-san is a great nickname. You use a katana, don't you? It works, see?" Several tick marks formed on Kurega's head. "Though I suppose I could call you Katana-san," Naruto admitted thoughtfully, "but katana is just way too long to say every time I want to talk to you." A loud grinding sound emerged from Kurega's mouth. It reminded everyone of those machines that are used to grind up minerals. "That's why I think Tana-san works best," Naruto nodded sagely to himself. He completely ignored the strange grinding noises that came from Kurega. Yes, it is definitely the best name for you. Wouldn't you agree?" Kurega still didn't answer. "Oi! I'm talking to, would you shut up?" Kurega shouted, whirling on Naruto and casting him a fierce glare. "Can't you see I'm trying to find the catch that will let us enter the palace?" "Oh, is that what you are doing?" Naruto scratched the back of his head. "Sorry, you were just taking so long I got bored." DCH. Grumbling to himself, Kurega turned back to the secret entrance and once again began searching for the catch. It took a bit longer than it should have. His frustration at Naruto's annoying blathering may have contributed to this, but he eventually found it. After pressing on it, he and the others watched as the door slid open and light spilled into the tunnel. Naruto grinned as he walked out of the secret passage and into the hallway. "Ah. Finally. I was getting tired of being in that stupid tunnel," he said, stretching his arms high above his head. It was so damn cramped in there. He turned to Michiru, eyeing the fat prince up and down. "I don't know, how could you stand it?" Michiru frowned. "What's that supposed to mean?" Nothing. Naruto dismissed the man's look with a wave of his hand. "Anyway, let's get going. Uro-sennin's probably started the party by now." As if on cue, a large explosion rocked the entire palace. While Michiru and several others raised their hands over their head, as if expecting debris to fall on them, Naruto snickered. "See what I mean? Uro-sennin's starting the party without us, so we need to get going." "What we need to do is move cautiously," Kurega countered. "It won't do any good if we rush headlong into this situation and find ourselves overwhelmed." "Ah, you worry too much." Naruto slapped the much older man on the back, causing him to nearly plant his face into a wall. The blonde-haired boy with whisker marks on his cheeks grinned as the swordsman glared at him. "Don't be such a sourpuss, Tana-san. This'll be a snap." "It's Kurega." Zox, the show had gone off without a hitch so far. Shinobi and the other ministers and politicians appeared to greatly enjoy the circus routine the troupe had put on. The group of greedy merchants and double speakers had clapped and cheered and oohed and awed. They appeared particularly enamored with Chamu, the troupe's saber-tooth and pride of the circus. Unfortunately, it was time for the curtain to fall on this charade. And now I would like to introduce one of the newest member of our circus, a man known far and wide for his incredible feats. Jiraiya. Shinobi looked startled. Jiraiya? Indeed, it was none other than Jiraiya who walked onto the makeshift stage the circus troupe had set up for their act. He was still in costume, but that all changed as he grabbed a hold of his clothes and threw them off, revealing his normal shinobi wear of green short kimono shirt and matching colored pants, red haori with mesh undershirt, geta sandals and spiked headband with the kanji for oil on it. "For my next act, I'll be showing you how real fire breathers roll." The man with spiky white hair and an indomitable spirit performed a series of hand seals. Katen, Enden. His chakra spiked as oil gathered in his mouth. His cheeks bulged before he shot out several globs of oil at speed. Each ball of the black, viscous substance ignited in the air before it struck the ground. The earth all around them combusted in a brilliant blaze as the balls of flaming oil exploded against the gravel, sending chunks of earth, grass and cobblestone pavement flying. Several samurai also ended up getting caught in the explosion and were sent packing, their broken and burnt bodies hitting the ground with dull thuds. "Seize them. Kill them." Amidst the chaos Jiraiya's jutsu had caused, Shinobi began shouting orders in an attempt to bring the situation under his control. If he could just kill off some of those fools from the circus, he should be able to bring everyone to heel. Those people were not fighters and Jiraiya was a well-known bleeding heart. His chivalrous nature wouldn't allow him to let people die if he could help it. Unfortunately, what the traitorous former politician didn't count on was the circus troupe fighting back. From his position on the balcony, Shinobi could only gape as his soldiers were smacked around by a pair of kangaroos, or getting trampled by the herd of elephants. Running across the courtyard like a bolt of white lightning, Chamu was also carving soldiers up with his claws and teeth. On his head was Kiki, the monkey, who was currently throwing rocks at the heads of soldiers. "What are you idiots doing?" Shinobi screeched when ignored, not that this deterred him from shrieking some more. "They're just a bunch of circus freaks. Kill them. Kill them all." "I don't think so." "What the dynamic entry." Shinobi turned his head just in time to receive a powerful kick to the face. The fat and greedy politician was sent flying, his body smacking the stone floor harshly before rolling across it like a ragdoll for several more feet. All of the senators and soldiers gaped at the young shinobi who just popped their leader a good one. "Yada." Naruto clenched his fists together in excitement, the grin on his face so large it split his face in half and forced his eyes to squint shut. "I've always wanted to do that at least once. It was so cool whenever Bushy Brows and Bushier Brows Sensei did that." "You are taking way too much joy from accomplishing something so simple. QB, when will you learn? I am just a simple man who enjoys the simple things in life." A snort echoed within his mind. "I don't believe that for 1 second. Really?" "Yeah, me neither." Shinobi. Michiru. Shinobi winced as he sat up. A large bruise was forming on his cheek, along with some serious swelling. That attack had really hurt. How nice of you to join us. Now I can finally kill you and your brat of a son. You're not going to kill anyone today, Shabetaba. Michiru actually sounded pretty intense there. Naruto was impressed, just a little bit. You're under arrest for crimes against the throne and the murder of my father. No, that's not what will be happening, Shabetaba said, standing up. It is you who will be dying this day. Ishidate. Kill these fools. Silence. Ishidate. I said kill these fools. More silence. Naruto looked around with a frown on his face. After a second, he chuckled and looked back at the usurper. It seems those three have abandoned you. No. Shabetaba's eyes widened. No. I paid those three good money to do my bidding. How could they betray me? Money can't buy everything. Naruto shook his head. They probably knew they couldn't defeat Jiraiya and myself in a fair fight. After their failed attempt at getting rid of us, they most likely knew we would be ready for anything else they could try and decided to cut their losses. The blonde shrugged. It's a pretty smart move of them if you ask me. Damn them. Shabetaba grit his teeth, his anger boiling over. Damn you, Ishidate. Shabetaba, in the name of the true daimyo, you are under arrest, Karaga declared, brandishing his sword. No. Shabetaba looked at all of them with wide, insane eyes. I won't allow you to take me. Kill them. Kill them all. Those soldiers who were loyal to Shabetaba all unsheathed their swords and charged them. Hey, a large smirk appeared on Naruto's face as he crouched down low. Leave this to me, you guys. Before anyone there could say anything, Naruto was blasting off the floor. He flew towards the charging soldiers at incredible speeds, his body a mere blur that could not be tracked by regular forces. None of the samurai even knew when Naruto had appeared among them. 1 second he was standing there, that infuriating smirk plastered on his feature, the next he was amidst them and already taking down his first opponent with a palm thrust to the chest. Grinning with a savage joy, Naruto spun around on his heels and moved to the left. A sword pierced the air he had been standing on. As the offending limb gripping the sword came into his view, the blond young man grabbed a hold of it in a vice grip. Orya. Ah. Continuing his spin, Naruto lifted the soldier off his feet and used him as a bat to knock several other samurai away. He only let go after the last soldier had been knocked for a loop. The dizzy enemy swordsman was then sent flying straight into a wall, which he became embedded into head first, his legs dangling out of the large hole the upper half of his body was stuck in. Anybody else want some of this? When all Naruto got were groans, he grinned and nodded to himself. I thought not. Zox, the battle to take control over the palace had been relatively short. With the disappearance of Ishidate, Karenbana and Kongo, there was no one with the strength to stand up against either Naruto or Jiraiya. Regular foot soldiers were just not a match for Shinobi, especially ones of their caliber. There was much to do after the battle. All those who had turned traitor had to be sentenced. Most of the normal soldiers had not known the truth about Shabetaba's ascension, which Jiraiya confirmed through interrogating them, and were given a 1-year prison sentence on the condition they swear their loyalty to Michiru. Those who did not would be given a life sentence. The politicians, merchants and ministers were another matter entirely. All of them had been aware of Shabetaba's treachery and even lent their support to overthrow the king. They were all given life imprisonment. Shabetaba, on the other hand, was given the death penalty for not only acts of treachery against the crown, but the murder of the former daimyo as well. That was a crime of the highest order and not something that simple imprisonment would rectify. Prince Michiru, now the daimyo of Tsuki no Kuni, had also been forced to make an announcement letting the citizens know what really happened to their former lord and of Shabetaba's betrayal. The people seemed to take the knowledge well enough. Most of them were aware of Shabetaba's greed to some extent, therefore not very surprised. With nothing to do, Naruto spent most of his time training. With Kyuubi's yokai no longer being a usable trump card, the young man was forced to turn to other methods of increasing his power. The first thing he attempted to do was enter that strange state he had achieved during the battle with Orochimaru. It hadn't turned out too well. It seemed that Naruto's body was incapable of handling the stress of that transformation for more than 10 seconds. Kyuubi theorized that because his yokai and chakra were now truly one, it was much more powerful than it had been, and that all the power he now possessed put extreme amounts of stress on his body. This meant the only way he could increase the amount of time he was in that state was through constantly putting stress on his body to increase its durability. It was a lot harder than it sounded. Not to mention painful. While his relationship with Jiraiya was not what it had been before learning about his father, it was much improved from what it was at the start of this mission. The fact that it was Jiraiya who had saved Naruto from those 3 shinobi when his body had been essentially poisoned by Kyuubi's yokai was a serious point in his favor. And with Naruto no longer pushing him away, it meant they could get in some serious training. Say what you will about the man, Jiraiya knew his stuff. He was not considered a legend among shinobi for no reason, as Naruto quickly found out during all of their spars. Nearly a month after the execution of Shinobi, peace had returned to Tsuki no Kuni, and Naruto and Jiraiya were ready to hit the road once again. "Do you really have to go?" asked Hikaru, sniffing as he looked up at the older male. Naruto grinned down at him, feeling a strange sense of nostalgia. He couldn't help but think he had been in this situation before as he ruffled the boy's hair. "Yeah, I do," Naruto answered, "but don't worry too much. I doubt this is the last time we'll see each other. After all, if I become Hokage and you become daimyo, we'll have to meet if we want to finalize our alliance. Promise you'll come back to visit?" Hikaru held out his left hand, pinky finger extended. Chuckling, Naruto wrapped the pinky of his right hand around the extended pinky. "Promise." "Come on, brat," Jiraiya called, "we need to head out. There are a lot more places I want us to get to before the end of this trip." "I'm coming, Uro-senin." "Stop being so impatient, you damn pervert." This coming from the boy who created a jutsu that transforms him into a naked chick, Jiraiya shot back. "He got you there." "Whatever," Naruto muttered, a small blush staining his cheeks. He looked back at Hikaru. "I'll see you around, kiddo." As Naruto ran off to catch up with Jiraiya, who he began arguing with not long after, Michiru placed a hand on his son's shoulder. "I doubt this will be the last time we see them, Hikaru. I'll have to remember to thank him the next time we meet. While I still don't know what my father meant when he talked about what was important, I think I'm beginning to." Hikaru looked at his father, then back towards where the blonde and his sensei were disappearing into the distance. He hoped this would not be the last time they met as well. Zox several miles from Tsuki no Kuni's capital city, Ishidate, Kongo and Karenbana sat around their small campsite. The trio of ninja had managed to get out of the palace with a good deal of treasure thanks to all the chaos the circus and Konoha shinobi had caused. While it wasn't enough for them to retire for life, it would hold them over until they found their next job. "Looks like you were right to leave them, Ishidate," Karenbana said. The fire she was sitting near crackled and popped. The light from the flames cast an orange glow upon her pale face and created stark, contrasting shadows that danced across her pale skin. "Of course I was," Ishidate said, "going up against one of the Sanin and his apprentice after our first failed attempt would have been foolish." He was confident in his own skills, but he also knew his limits. He would have stood no chance against the fabled Gama-senin. Better to retreat and fight another day than die under the services of some pompous fool. "Whatever," Kongo grumbled angrily as he slammed his fist into the ground, "I still want to smash that damn brat for making us look like a bunch of fools. Do you now?" At the sound of the unknown voice, all of their eyes widened. How had someone gotten that close? They hadn't even sensed anyone approach their camp. Despite their surprise, the three were still experienced ninja and responded accordingly. Each one leapt to their feet and prepared to destroy whoever had dared to intrude upon their camp. "Coo, there is no need for violence," a figure stepped out of the shadows, one that caused all three to quake. The smile on his face did not help ease their fears. "I have no intention of fighting you three. Rather, I have a proposition I think you would find very beneficial." Naruto never thought he'd find himself back in High no Kuni so soon into his training period. Well, maybe not soon. It had been 6 months since he started training, after all, but with nearly 2.5 years still left, he'd not anticipated returning to his home country at this juncture in his life. Not until the end of his training. According to Uro-senin, his perverted teacher, they had been contracted for some kind of mission. Much like the one they had been sent on to Tsuki no Kuni, this mission was to be a bodyguard mission. Naruto was actually more excited for this mission than he was the last one. Their last mission had them guarding a fat man and a brat, and while the brat turned out to be alright, the person they were guarding this time would be 1,000 times better, because this time they were guarding a celebrity. Yes, a celebrity. To be exact, they were guarding Yuki Fujikaze, the famous actress who played the titular character for Naruto's favorite guilty pleasure movie series, Princess Gale. They were currently on their way to meet with Yuki's manager, some old guy named Sandy something or other. Naruto didn't much care for the details. He was just excited to be meeting his favorite actress. "Look at you, brat, bouncing around like a kid on a sugar high," Jiraiya laughed at Naruto as walked down the street of what appeared to be an average village. "Excited about meeting a world-famous actress, are we?" "Hell yes." Naruto cheered, doing a fist pump for good measure. "How can I not be excited? We're meeting Yuki Fujikaze." Yuki Fujikaze was well known as a child actress. Despite only being 17 years of age, she had already played a number of different roles. While her most famous showing was the Princess Gale series, she had played in a lot of other movies as well. I can't wait to finally meet her, Naruto continued blabbering. My only disappointment is that I don't have any of my Princess Gale posters with me. You have posters? If I had known we'd be meeting Yuki Fujikaze, I would have made sure to bring several of them to get them signed. Sighing deeply, Naruto scratched the back of his neck. Man, talk about disappointing. He perked up a second later, unable to actually stay depressed in the face of their next mission. Ah, well. At least I'm getting to meet Yuki. And I can still probably get an autograph. Jiraiya chuckled at his apprentice's enthusiasm. It was good to see his godson's anger at him had dissipated. That had not been a pleasant experience. Certainly not something he would ever want to experience again. Can you be any more giddy? You're like a child in a candy shop. Naruto rolled his eyes. Well, excuse me Ms. I woke up on the wrong side of the bed today. I can't help it. How many people can say they've had a chance to meet the best actress in the entire world? How many of those people can say they were her bodyguard? Not many. Calling someone the best of anything is very subjective, Naruto. Just because you like this Yuki woman's acting skills doesn't mean she's the best in the business. I don't know how you can say that. You don't even watch TV. Did you forget, Naruto? I can see everything you see. I've been able to for as long as I've been inside of you, which means I've also seen all the movies you have. Granted, you haven't seen many movies, but I have to say, out of all the actresses you know, I think Yuki definitely ranks number 5. Naruto narrowed his eyes. I only know 5 actresses. Within his mind, Kyuubi snickered. Exactly. Great. So his inner demoness was teasing him again. She'd been doing that quite a bit lately, more than she used to. Part of him wondered why, but the rest just didn't care. Naruto grumbled some as he cut off his connection with the sexy fox lady. While he didn't mind a little banter with the vixen, he didn't want to get caught up in a conversation where all she did was tease him right now. Deciding to get a few more details about their mission, he turned to Jiraiya, who walked alongside him as they moved through the crowded city off the coast of Hinokuni. Uro-sen and Kami, damn it, Naruto. When are you gonna stop calling me that? Where exactly are we supposed to meet up with Yuki at? Also, what are the specifics for this mission, exactly? Asked Naruto, blatantly ignoring Jiraiya's angry exclamation. If the perv didn't want being called Uro-sen, then he should stop being so damn perverted. Jiraiya sighed. First of all, we're not meeting Yuki-san anywhere. We're meeting her manager, Sandayu-san. Second of all, this mission isn't your standard bodyguard mission. What do you mean by that? I mean we're not guarding just 1 or 2 people. While Michiru had that caravan of his, we weren't responsible for its protection and our only concern was the prince and his son. Everything else was merely collateral. For this mission we're being required to guard the entire crew responsible for the production of the Princess Gale movies. I see. Naruto cupped his chin with his right hand, eyes scrunching in thought and making his features appear even more vulpine. Sounds like this is going to be a lot bigger than a lot of our other assignments. Maybe, maybe not, Jiraiya said. We've certainly got our work cut out for us, but I doubt we'll have to deal with anything as dangerous as what happened on our last mission. You just had to say it, didn't know, Naruto said. What? Jiraiya looked at his apprentice with clear confusion on his face. What did I say now? You just completely jinxed our mission. Honestly, didn't this perverted old coot know anything? You should never say shit like I doubt our next mission will be that tough or it'll all be smoothing sailing from here. That's just asking for trouble. Jiraiya rolled his eyes. You're being pessimistic. Am I? Naruto fired back. This dude seriously hadn't learned yet. Take a look at my track record. My first C rank out of the village I ended up fighting against a frickin' A rank ninja and... Naruto hesitated for a moment. Someone who could use ice ninjutsu. Afterward, we had the Chunin exam where I fought Orochi fucking Maru in the second stage, had my arm ripped off by a Psycho Jinchuriki in the prelims. During the final stage I fought against Neji the Prick Hyuga, Bushy-Brows Lee, Yugi-chan, and then I had to go on and defeat Gaara again after he went all tanuki on the village. And all that happened within my first few months of being a ninja. I have a whole list of shit that I could bring up to back my theory. Seriously, it's like the whole world just loves fucking me over, and now you've gone and completely jinxed our next assignment. I'm gonna have a fucking aneurysm from all the stress these missions put me under. Drama queen. Oh, shut up, Naruto grumbled to the vixen in his mind. He was not a drama queen. Not one bit. Everything he just said was completely true. You'd feel the same way if you went through half the shit that I have. I've gone through far more than you ever will." Naruto could practically hear the scoff in her voice. "Did you forget how long I've been around? I'm well over 1,000 years old. I've seen and done more than any mortal ever will." "Yes, that is true, but I'm not really a mortal anymore, am I?" Naruto asked, his voice abnormally soft, even in his mind. "Ah." Kyubi seemed to choke on her own words. "Yes. I suppose that's true. I guess you're not a mortal anymore." She became quiet after that. Naruto waited to see if she would say anything else, but when it became clear she wouldn't, he sighed, wondering how long it would be before the knowledge of his own semi-immortality stopped bothering him. Probably after all of his friends were long dead. What a morbid thought. "Okay, I'll grant you've had it pretty rough since you became a ninja." Well, at least his perverted sensei was willing to admit that much. "But I still think you're being too pessimistic about all this. Seriously, we're only being hired as a safety precaution, not because there's any real danger involved. Yuki no Kuni hasn't been a hotbed of activity since the coup d'etat led by Dota Kazuyan over a decade ago, and we probably won't even meet him since all we're doing is filming a movie. What could go wrong?" Zox, Naruto and Jiraiya eventually found the man they were looking for in a large building filled with stagehands rushing to and fro. Naruto could immediately tell something was up from the moment they entered the building. The people around them all appeared frantic. It didn't take long to find the guy they needed to. He was standing in front of the stage, yelling into a walkie-talkie, his voice high-pitched and frantic. "What do you mean she's not in her room? You're telling me she ran out again?" Naruto would have wondered who she was, but at that moment Jiraiya walked up to the man and, after a second's hesitation, he decided to follow. "You're Sandy Uesama, I presume?" The one Jiraiya addressed appeared startled and spun around to stare at them. Yes. Can I help you?" Sandy quickly made to straighten his glasses and Naruto got a good look at him. The dude looked old. Not like old, but more like a worn old, as if he'd been under so much stress that he'd aged prematurely. He wore a pair of rimmed glasses, had his hair in a ponytail, and had way too many stress lines, like an old fruit that had been left out in the sun for too long. "Yeah, we're the ninja you hired for the bodyguard detail," Jiraiya said. He then looked around, his face reflecting his confusion. Is something going on around here? Everyone seems kinda frantic." "Oh, it's horrible," Sandy moaned piteously. "Our star actress, Yuki Fujikaze is missing." Whatever Jiraiya had been expecting, it most certainly wasn't that, a fact which became more than evident by the old Sanin's dropped jaw and wide eyes. "I told you something could go wrong," Naruto smirked at his sensei. Jiraiya leveled him with a glare. "Shut up, brat," he grumbled, not at all pleased with having the first few seconds of their mission already looking so troublesome. Maybe he should have kept his big mouth shut? Jiraiya turned his attention back Sandayu, trying to glean what he could from the man as to the possible whereabouts of their missing actress. Naruto didn't pay a whole lot of attention, doubting they would be able to glean any clues from this man, who seemed just as lost as to the whereabouts of Yuki Fujikaze as they were. Instead of listening as the old man expressed his woes to the even older man, the Uzumaki made the familiar cross seal for his most used jutsu and created several clones. "All right, men." Naruto barked like a drill sergeant giving orders. The clones snapped to attention. "You all know what to do. Spread out and search the area. When you find Yuki, dispel yourselves. Asu." His clones saluted before shooting off. Some took to the buildings, others ran along the streets. One of them even decided to get cheeky and started jumping on the heads of people passing by. Most people would have shaken their heads at that one. Naruto was just depressed he didn't think of doing something that awesome first. Weren't he and his clones supposed to be the same? "Now there's an interesting ability," a voice said from somewhere behind him. "I haven't seen something like that before." Turning around, Naruto ended up face to face with another old man. For a second, Naruto wondered if everyone around him was going to be some kind of geezer on this trip. Wasn't he supposed to be protecting Yuki Fujikaze? The hottest actress in showbiz? This man had shock white hair, wore shades indoors, a hat, and had a pipe in his mouth. He grinned at Naruto. "Who are you, old man?" asked Naruto. "Hey, I'm the director to the Princess Gale movies." The old man smirked. "I'm not surprised you don't recognize me, since I'm the one in the background shouting orders while all the magic is happening on the big screen. Anyway, what was that power you just used? You mean my cage bunshine?" Yeah, that." The director nodded his head. "I've never seen anyone do something like that one before, however, it's definitely an interesting ability. Would be pretty useful, too." And I could just imagine how cool it would be seeing something like that on the big screen. Wouldn't it? Naruto said, grinning. He had no trouble tooting his own horn when someone recognized how awesome his jutsu was. It would totally look amazing on the big screen. I could just picture the looks on people's faces as they watch a movie and see 1,000 people suddenly appearing on screen. It would be totally awesome. Indeed it would. The director nodded his head. I might even have a use for that ability in Princess Gale. That's something I'll have to think about doing, actually. It looks like I may need to rewrite some of my script. Naruto grinned. You know something? You're alright for an old guy, said old guy laughed. And you're alright for a brat. The two grinned at each other, already bonding over their shared disregard for protocol and the awesomeness that was the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. For some reason, Jiraiya, while listening to Sandayu complain and fret over his missing charge, shivered in some unknown fear. So does this happen often? Naruto asked, arms crossing over his chest. I mean this whole Yuki is missing thing. It almost feels like you guys have done this song and dance before. Not usually, the director said, sighing and scratching the back of his head. I mean, sometimes she'll occasionally disappear, but she usually shows up again an hour or two later. Yuki is actually a very admirable actress. She's never run off like this before, and she's certainly never vanished during the middle of shooting. This is the first time I've ever seen her pull a complete vanishing act like this. Zox, one of Naruto's clones, eventually found Yuki Fujikaze on the other side of town. The woman in question sat upon the edge of a stream just inside the borders of the small city. Dressed in stately robes fit for a princess, or at least one acting as a princess, the young woman silently gazed at the stream, knees pulled up to her chest, arms wrapped around her knees, and her eyes staring into the tranquil waters that flowed across her vision. This was how Naruto found her. He stood several feet away, not yet approaching, but instead just taking a moment to admire the woman. She really was pretty. She was even prettier in real life than she was in the movies, and Naruto needed a moment to calm himself down before greeting her. It would be really bad form if he went all fanboy on her. What kind of bodyguard acted like an overly enthusiastic fanboy anyway? You really are obsessed, aren't you? Jealous? Humph. Not in the least. Taking a deep, calming breath, Naruto walked up to the woman without bothering to mask his presence. She seemed to notice him, for her head turned and lifted to gaze at him from her seated position. He stopped just a few feet from her, and did his best to put on a friendly grin. You're Yuki Fujikaze, right? Naruto asked for clarification before pointing at himself with a thumb. I'm Uzumaki Naruto, a chunin from Konoha Corps. I'm here with Jiraiya-san as a part of the security detail hired by Sandayu-sama to watch over you and the others during your photoshoot and ensure your safe passage through Yuki no Kuni. The grin seemed to gain several more levels of brightness as he looked down at her. I'm looking forward to working with you. Naruto had many expectations about working with an actress of Yuki Fujikaze's level. He expected her to act with poise and grace, just like the person she played in the Princess Gale movies. He expected her to understand decorum and how the coming days would work. He expected her to be understanding and compassionate. And most of all, he expected them to have a cordial, if professional relationship. What he did not expect was for the woman to spray him with a can of mace. Ga. Rubbing his eyes furious, Naruto tried to somehow alleviate the pain of having mace shot into his eyes, but damn it if it wasn't hard. Who the hell does that anyway? Just spray mace into people's eyes? That wasn't graceful or compassionate at all. Finally managed to rid himself of the worst sting, Naruto opened his eyes to glare at the woman. Damn it. What the hell was that? It was only after a couple of seconds that he realized Yuki no longer stood in front of him. It took a moment, but he soon found her leaping onto the saddle of a horse. He stared at the woman in shock for several long silent seconds, watching as the horse she rode disappeared around a corner. Then he balked. What the hell? She just ran away from me. Growling, Naruto decided that he simply couldn't let this go. If this woman wanted to take him on a merry little chase, then by the Rikadu Sennin he would show that woman why you can't outrun a ninja. No one got away from Uzumaki Naruto. No one. Upon hopping onto the nearest roof with a chakra-enhanced leap, Naruto took off in the direction he last saw Yuki traveling. It didn't take long to find her. She was the only person in the entire city riding a horse down the street. That made things considerably easier. With the grin of one about to pull a successful prank, Naruto leapt down from the building he'd been running along and onto the horse's hind quarter. Neither steed nor rider noticed him yet, such was the softness and silence with which he moved. Damn, he was awesome. You really know how to ride a horse, lady, Naruto said, amusement seeping into his voice, especially when Yuki nearly jumped out of her harness. She turned her head to see him standing there, gaping, and Naruto gave her a close-eyed grin. However, the fun ends here. I think it's about time you and I gawk. It was most unfortunate for Naruto that he was standing instead of crouching. If he had, maybe he would have been able to avoid the branch that smacked him right in the throat. He hadn't, however, and thus ended up getting knocked off the horse when an abnormally long branch sticking out of a passing tree clogged his windpipe and blocked his air passage. Naruto lay on his back for several seconds, staring up at the sky, gasping in asphyxiated agony, catching his second wind. Then he groaned and sat up. "Ugh, that was embarrassing," he muttered. "I'll say. Beaten by a tree branch. Some ninja you are. Put a muzzle on it," Naruto growled. He then directed his gaze to the tree branch that knocked him off Yuki's horse, glaring at it. What he wouldn't give for the ability to light things on fire with his vision right now. He sighed. "I guess I'll have to go and find Yuki. Again." "You mean your clones will find her again, right? You don't do anything." "Shut up." Zock's dark lighting greeted Naruto as he walked into the rundown dive that called itself a bar. He blinked several times, letting his eyes adjust to the shifts in the light spectrum. Several round tables situated into booths greeted his vision, grimy and rusted, with stains and dirt covering their surface. And the patrons weren't much better. Most of the people there were definitely the shady sort, sitting in their alcoves, huddling together and whispering. This certainly was not the kind of place he'd want to have a drink in. The sooner he got out of here, the better. Now if he could just find. "Oi! Bartender, get me another drink." Speak of the devil. Naruto found Yuki Fujikaze, drunk as a skunk, swaying in her seat, and demanding more alcohol. As he walked further in, one of the other patrons, a man covered in a long trench coat and a hat hiding his face, stood up and began drunkenly swaying toward the equally wasted Yuki. The man's hand stretched out, reaching toward the young woman, whether to cop a feel or for purposes more nefarious would never be known. "I don't know who the hell you think you are," Naruto hissed, glaring at the suddenly frightened drunk. "But if you think for 1 second that I am going to let you grope some woman in my presence without her consent, you've got another thing coming." A pause. "Even if that woman is so drunk she probably won't even notice." The wrist clenched in the blonde's grasp began to creak as he increased the strength of his grip, causing the man to cry out. A second later, Naruto spun on the balls of his feet, the drunk in his grip getting jerked off his feet and sent flying right into the door when Naruto let go. Clapping his hands as he saw the man crumble to the floor in a heap, clearly unconscious, a certain grinning blonde clapped his hands, and then turned his attention to the woman he'd come to the stump for. Yuki Fujikaze was, most assuredly, drunker than anyone had any right to be. Her bloodshot eyes gazed at him, half-lidded and blinking, as if she recognized him but couldn't place where. Cheeks stained red from alcohol consumption also showed how far gone she was. Naruto was surprised. Wasn't Yuki only 17 years old? Why was the bartender allowing her to drink? Or did she have some kind of fake ID or something? Maybe she tossed around a lot of money. "I don't really appreciate you running off on me, lady." Naruto crossed his arms over his chest and glared at the woman. "I don't care if you are an awesome actress. I don't put up with crap from Uro-sennin, and I'm not putting up with that crap from you. And who the hell sprays mace in a person's eyes?" Yuki stared at him in her drunken stupor for all of 10 seconds. Then she turned around, clicking her tongue and going back to her drink. "DCH. You again. Why don't you go bother someone else, kid? You're ruining the mood." "Oh, ruining the mood, am I?" Naruto's voice was so laden with sarcasm it could fill the bar. "I'm so sorry for ruining the mood, but then, you'd know all about that, wouldn't you? I'm pretty sure the mood was ruined the moment you decided to run out on the set while you were mid-shoot." "Whatever," Yuki dismissed his words. Naruto grit his teeth. He was seriously beginning to regret this assignment. After having such high hopes about meeting one of his favorite actresses of all time, Naruto had been expecting someone a little okay, a lot more personable. This woman was completely destroying all of his childhood fantasies. "I also wouldn't try running out on me like that again," Naruto said. "That shit you pulled back there with the maze? Uzumaki Naruto never falls for the same trick twice." The raven-haired young woman stared at Naruto hard for several seconds, which was impressive considering how drunk she was. Seriously, how many people who had enough alcohol in their system to poison an elephant were capable of producing a glare like that? Then Yuki turned away, going back to her drink. "Why are bothering me anyway? Why do you even care?" "Oh, I don't know, how about because it's my job?" Naruto crossed his arms over his chest. My sensei and I were hired to protect you and your crew as you traveled to Yuki no Kuni. I'm not too keen on failing my missions, especially not because some snotty little princess wants to run from her duties." He was still pretty pissed off about what happened in the past hour or so. His throat was sore from where he'd struck the tree branch, and his eyes still itched from when she sprayed mace in his face. That was just not cool. "Now, come on. Get your ass up. I'd like to get this mission over with so I can move on with my life." "Che." Yuki scoffed at him. "What would some brat like you know about life? Plenty." So she wanted to play that kind of game, did she? Well, that was just fine with him. Naruto was more than willing to play. "I probably know about life than some snooty little actress. And you're not that much older than me, you know." The belligerently drunk actress offered him a bitter chuckle as she swirled the ice around in her glass. "Allow me to let you in on a little secret, kid. Actors are the biggest fakes in the entire world. We're put up on the big screen, displayed to millions of people who ogle and admire us, never realizing that we're some of the biggest liars you'll ever meet. We're given our scripts, handed these lives put on paper that we're supposed to breathe life into. It's all just a sick joke." Naruto snorted, causing Yuki to toss a nasty look his way. "What are you laughing at?" "I'm laughing at you. Actors are the biggest fakes in the entire world? Please, you're preaching to the choir, lady. I'm a ninja. We make our entire lives off lying, cheating, stealing and killing. Living fake lives? We do that every time we go on an infiltration mission, generating false identities, creating fake personas, and breathing life into them. You clearly have no concept of how the world works if you think actors are the biggest cheats and liars around." Yuki's glare was truly scathing. "What would you know? More than you, it seems." Naruto was still getting his chuckles in when he decided they'd wasted enough time. "Now, come on. I've humored you long enough. It's time to go back to Sandayu and the others. They seem pretty worried about you, can't imagine why." "Ah, let them worry." Yuki dismissed Sandayu and the rest of the crew with a dry chuckle. "Sandayu's just worried about his next meal ticket, and don't even get me started on the director. He doesn't care about anything but his movie. As for me, I'm done playing the part of the princess. They can always get some other woman to pick up the slack. Movies switch out actors for sequels all the time. I'm sure they won't have any trouble finding someone else to play Princess Gale for the next movie. One thing's for sure, however, and that's that I'm not going back to Yuki no Kuni. No way, no how." Naruto faintly registered the words going back and shelved it for posterior inquiry. Right now he had a stubborn, prissy little actress to deal with. And how should he deal with this? Now there was a question worth asking. Part of him just wanted to knock the bitch out and drag her sorry, drunken ass back to the others, world-famous actress or no. But he couldn't really do that, could he? Uro-sennin would be upset, and it wouldn't really generate goodwill or endear him to the rest of the cast even if giving this lady a chop to the neck would make him feel a whole lot better personally. Releasing a prominent sigh, Naruto sank down into a chair next to the woman. "Oi! Bartender, get me whatever she's having." The bartender, a middle-aged man, with graying brown hair and a handlebar mustache, gazed at him with one eyebrow raised skeptically. "You want me to get you a drink? What are you, 10? I can't give alcohol to a 10-year-old. A vein throbbed on Naruto's forehead. That throbbing intensified when Yuki giggled at him. He sent her a scathing look before turning back to the bartender and pointing at the metal plate on his head. "You see this headband? This headband means I'm a ninja, jerkwad. I know 50 different ways to slit someone's throat and hundreds to kill them. It also means I'm exempt from standard laws and regulations within High no Kuni. Now get me my damn drink." "Whatever you say, kid," the bartender said, setting aside the glass he'd been cleaning with a rag and getting Naruto his drink. The young man grumbled some as a glass with several cubes was set in front of him and some kind of amber liquid poured in. Naruto took a small sip of the stuff. And then decided that whatever swill this was had nothing on my Obakuzen brand fire sake. "What are you smirking at?" Naruto asked upon noticing the blatant smirk on the drunken Yuki's face. Said smirk widened at his words. "I see you finally decided to throw in the towel," she said, grin widening even further when he took another sip. "You know you can't convince me to do what I don't want, so you've given up and decided to join me. Smart choice. If that's what you're thinking, then I can tell you right now that you're dead wrong." Naruto propped an elbow onto the table and rested his cheek on his hand, the other of which held his drink. "I have no intentions of giving up, however, seeing as you're being completely unreasonable at the moment, I figured I should at least relax a bit and share a drink with you before we start hating each other's guts." Naruto looked at the blinkingly flabbergasted Yuki and smirked as he raised his drink to her and toast. So how about it? Wanna at least have this one small gesture before we start making each other's lives miserable? Yuki looked at him, blinking some more, before a cynical chuckle escaped her lips. She raised her glass, completely missing the soft fizzling of something dissolving in her drink. The price she paid for already being quite drunk. Sure, kid. Cheers. Cheers. Their glasses clinked together. Naruto threw his drink back, gulping it down in one go. Not one to be outdone, Yuki followed his example. Naruto watched as she drained her entire glass, and despite her personality being one that left a lot to be desired, couldn't help but admire the way her elegant throat moved as she drained her glass. He then shook his head. What the fuck is wrong with you, Naruto? You know nothing can happen between you two, even if you did like her, which you don't. Remember what you are. No woman would love you once she realized you're actually a monster. Within the seal, Kyuubi listened to Naruto's thoughts, wondering if he knew that she could hear him. Probably not, or he wouldn't be thinking like that. You know, for a brat you sure can handle your drink, Yuki said, turning to him, eyes becoming droopy. Naruto smirked. I'd say you're not so bad yourself, but since you're about 2 seconds away from passing out, I don't think I can. Yuki's frown grew more prominent. Her eyes began droopier and she began swaying on the spot. Her body tilted back and forth and her eyes blinked several times as they tried focusing on him. What are you? Talk. Ing. Ab. Out. The teen actress suddenly pitched forward. Fortunately for her, she ended up falling into Naruto, who kept her from having a close encounter of the face-on-steel kind. Her eyes were closed, pink lips slightly parted, glistening in the low lighting, and light snores could be heard coming from the woman who had seemingly fallen asleep. Naruto couldn't help but notice that Yuki actually looked much prettier when sleeping. It probably had something to do with how he didn't have to deal with her attitude. Scooping the girl into his arms, Naruto gave a cheery grin to the bartender before heading toward the door. He absent-mindedly took notice that the drunk he slammed into the door had, at some point during his conversation with Yuki, woken up and left. Ah well. What he did care about that drunk. It's not like some stupid old pervert trying to cop a feel of a young woman could do anything to him. Several kilometers away, Jiraiya, standing with Sandayu and the director, sneezed. Zox, I see, so she has the hex crystal, a deep voice akin to a growl exclaimed from the large man seated on a metallic throne, a glass of amber liquid in his left hand, the ice inside idly jingling back and forth. With his other hand being used to pillow his head, the individual looked down at his subjects with the absolute authority of a ruler as he addressed the 3 people kneeling before him on the ground. Splendid. This is truly wonderful news, Nader. This actress, Yuki Fujikaze, she is undoubtedly Koyuki Kazuyana. Nader, a man with long grayish-purple hair tied into a ponytail, marks underneath his eyes, strange-looking shinobi armor and a mask-style Yukigaku headband on his head, stated with a smirk. My informant who's been shadowing her for the past week has confirmed that she does indeed have the hex crystal. She's without a doubt the genuine article. Kneeling on Nader's left, a woman with pink hair lifted her head, revealing a cynical smirk and sadistic green eyes. I can hardly wait. It was worth the 10 years it took to find her. Hey! The largest of the group, a hulking giant of a man with a chiseled chin, notable plate armor, kneeling to the right of his leader, smirked. Taking care of one little girl? This'll be a piece of cake. Don't be too sure about that, Nader said, frowning, his face growing serious. She's not alone. My informant has managed to find out that she has 2 powerful shinobi guarding her. Who are they? Asked the man on the throne. Uzumaki, Naruto and Jiraiya of the Densetsu no Sannin. The man leaned against his throne. Jiraiya of the legendary 3 and his apprentice, Uzumaki Naruto. Yes, these 2 could definitely cause trouble for us. Indeed, Nader said. While I am confident any one of us could handle the boy, I am not so arrogant as to believe that we could take on a Sannin, especially not Jiraiya. He is not hailed as one of the most powerful shinobi in the elemental nations for nothing. The man leaned against his throne, his face turning toward an area of the large room covered in darkness. It seems I was right to hire you too. 2 people stepped out of the shadows several feet from the 3 Yuki ninja. Both were easily distinguished-looking individuals. The one on the left had medium length, slicked back white hair and purple eyes, and around his neck was a headband with the Yugakur, Hidden Hot Springs Village, symbol with a slash running through it. The other had tan skin and stood much taller than his counterpart. The white hood and black mask around his head hid everything about his face except for his eyes, which peered out at the world around him with an almost apathetic gaze. They were unusual-looking organs with green irises, no pupils and red sclerae. Talk about freaky. Both wore strangely vibrant clothing, black cloaks with red clouds imprinted on them. The one with the freaky eyes wore his in an oddly normal fashion. Meanwhile, the other wore his cloak open to reveal that he didn't believe in wearing shirts, his muscular torso exposed to the world despite how cold it must have been. Where the tall man with the eyes appeared unarmed, the one with white hair carried a large, triple-bladed scythe with red blades over his shoulder. Indeed it was, the one with the eyes spoke up, his voice raspy and grating, as if he hardly ever used it. Jiraiya of the Sannin is no ordinary shinobi, and we've been keeping tabs on his apprentice, who was already powerful enough to go toe-to-toe with Orochimaru's strongest henchman during the Chunin exams that happened in Konoha recently. Mere Jonin-level shinobi would be no match for either of them. Nadir and the other three ninja growled, but the man on the throne chuckled. Indeed, I'll be counting on you too. Che, the man with white hair spat on the floor. Nadir and the others started at such disrespect being shown, but he didn't seem to care. As long as I get to fucking kill something, I don't really care. And this greedy bastard will do anything for money, the man finished, hiking a thumb at his partner in crime. Money makes the world go round, Hidan, the man said. And if you don't stop pointing at me, I'll kill you. Hidan smirked at his partner. Hey, like you could. If you were able to kill me, I'd let you. DCH. I'd like you to wait in the wings at first, the man on the throne said. While I will definitely be utilizing your services for this, I would like to see how well my chakra armor works against skilled opponents. A fight with a Sannin and his apprentice will be a great test. That's fine, the dark-skinned one replied. So long as I get my money I don't care either way. Che, heathen? Religious fanatic. Nadir watched the two shinobi as they began arguing over, of all things, religion and money, with a look of disgust. Dota might approve of these two Akatsuki members, but he sure didn't. You couldn't trust a group of ninja mercenaries for hire, and he wouldn't be trusting these two as far as he could throw them. Silently, Nadir made a promise that he would kill at least one of the ninja guarding the former daimyo's bratty little princess. If not Jiraiya then at least Naruto. Surely it couldn't be that hard to deal with a 14-year-old brat, right? That's it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and follow me on my other social media accounts. Anime God here, and I'm signing off.